Let's talk about some data that came out this morning. Sales of existing homes in May plummeted 9.7% from the previous month to 3.9 million units. That is a 9.5-year low. A lot of numbers there, but we are seeing sales down 26.6% annually, the largest decline we've seen since 1982. Jeff Taylor is co-founder and managing director at Digital Risk. He's also the Mortgage Bankers Association board member. And Jeff, existing home sales were up 90%, or make up 90% of U.S. home sales. And so we were expecting a big decline, but this seemed to really exceed that, because we're looking at a number that was roughly about a 3% decline initially that we were expecting.
Yeah, I think I'm not really sure that really tells a story where we are as a housing market in general. I think obviously with COVID and the ability for people not to be able to get in physically to see houses and to actually get out and shop for houses, a number had declined, but I'm really looking, and not a V-shaped recovery, but I'm looking for a very second strong half of the year as we begin to open back up. I mean, look, we go in March 1st of this year, we are sitting at close to all-time low interest rates. The consumer has never been stronger, and the inventory in the U.S. nationally has never been tighter. So while the existing home sales right now are tight, I'll give you a different data point. The home builder sentiment jumped 21 points this last month. That's the biggest gain that we've had ever on a month-to-month basis, up to 58. So as you start to look at the housing market right now, I think we're going to see a very, very strong purchase market, because a lot has to do with how much actually compressed the market still is as far as availability. And the second part to all this is we've got 4.2 million people who are in forbearances. But the good news coming out of that stat is about 30% of them have continued to make their mortgage payments on time, versus if you look back like in 2008 in the financial crisis, people were pretty much delinquent the entire way. The story there goes to tell us is people have been making payments on these loans, sometimes from 5 to 7 years. They've built up a tremendous amount of home equity, and they are prioritizing making their mortgage payments and their home payments amongst other things. So I think holistically, I still see a very, very strong U.S. housing market, and I see that continuing to climb in the months to come.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, to your point, the number we got today is more backwards looking, and we have gotten some promising signs over the last several weeks. Applications for home loans surging to an 11-year high. We saw a sharp rebound in building permits, which you just referenced as well. How quickly are you seeing the market bounce back?
In some places, and I live here in Miami, I can tell you it's local. We're still seeing properties. Real estate agents are telling me they're seeing bidding wars currently right now. So there has not been a slowdown, as far as like in the Miami area. Now, nationally, I think it all comes back as a country reopens its people's health, getting out there, looking at houses. Where are they on an individual basis with their own employment? The jobs they have, how do they feel about their forecast or financial forecast looking out, 6, 12 months down the road. So it's very personalized. But I can tell you, again, because the market was so tight already, and because we have so much home equity, I'll give you a stat. At 2012, we had $6.6 trillion of home equity. Sitting here today, we have $18.7 trillion in home equity. Think about that. That means that the U.S. has put that much homeowners into building home equity into their houses. So I see a very, very strong housing market, and I actually see the refinance market as we started to hit all-time interest rates. People who are going to continue to refinance their loans going forward also.
What are some areas where you're seeing the strongest growth? I mean, you alluded in your notes about following where the job market is. We've seen a lot of tech companies going against the grain and hiring at a time when we've seen unemployment at record levels. Is that the kind of area where we're likely to see a huge surge for this pent-up demand over the last 3 months, and now people actually going out and looking at home purchases? What are some markets that you're honing in on right now?
So I'll give you a national statement, then I'll come back to local. What I really am seeing nationally, I'm seeing kind of that move to the suburbs, right? This whole work from home thing, I don't see this going anywhere anytime soon. This is going to be part of our life today. It's continuing to be part of our lives. So I think that people are actually looking at in the bigger cities saying, hey, can I get a bigger bang for the buck by moving out to the suburbs? Maybe I'll take a bedroom and set it up as my home office. And so I think that's been a very national statement. And locally, Right now, if I look at New York, I've seen the amount of stories that we hear on the renters of going from New York City into Connecticut for periods of time right now. That's a very hot market. But again, if I had to see a trend, especially when you see like people like Google work from home for all 2020 in most industries, I think you're going to see an incredibly strong housing market in moving to the suburbs for the end of 20 and through 21.
And Jeff, what is that likely to mean for property prices in these cities, whether it's New York or San Francisco? If there is in fact a move out of the city, are we likely to see a price drop, or are they going to hold pretty steady?
I think right now my outlook is they're going to hold pretty steady. I mean, if I look at 2020, I'm looking about a flat year nationally, and I think in 2021 maybe up 1% nationally as far as home price appreciation. The cities, again, like San Francisco and New York, I just think that there's so much demand for that real estate globally. I think that they're going to be very strong. But again, I still think that as we kind of reimagine what the workplace becomes and the fact that you can do it from a remote perspective, I just think that you're going to see people who might have said, okay, I have to be in the city to do my job, realizing maybe they're in the city half the time and they're doing it remote, or in the suburbs the other half. So I don't anticipate real estate plummeting in the cities, but I definitely do think that you're going to have a lot bigger moves to the suburbs in the coming years ahead.
Okay, some interesting moves on that front. Jeff Taylor, good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.